when we first made the trip over to Thailand, we were living up on a hill in a villa, about 160 meters above sea level. And the closest neighbor was down the hill, maybe about 50 meters or so down, but at least a good walk that'll take you about 20 minutes away. And we're quite isolated. But in that first month, the neighbor came up because he knew that it was a new guy on the block, a new couple on the block. And they were very nice. They made us feel welcome. And that then transferred over to the rest of the neighbors very quickly. And within less than 3 weeks, I think, we knew just about everybody in that enclave. Same when we made the move here to Penang. We're in a low density 2 blocks estate, and we know the neighbors here fairly well. They are quite welcoming. I say this because we were staying in Singapore for the longest time. I mean, all our lives, and we owned a condo in the West Coast, and we were living there for 4 years. Yeah, I get up early, 4:30 in the morning, and I'm out to make the 6 o'clock radio show, and I come back almost before sun sets. But in those 4 years, I didn't even know my neighbor. I had no idea who my neighbor was because I hardly saw the person, and I sadly, maybe it's the success of Singapore that people have so much work to do that they don't really make all the connections. I just found that when I've gone to another country and you're the only one there, you suddenly make the connections very quickly, and then they become very long-lasting friends, so to speak. So that's the reason why I think that's one of the things I like about going to different places and meeting people and making connections with them, and almost lifelong connections.
I think one of the challenges a lot of people face is assimilating to a new environment. I remember when we were living in Australia for a few years, the first time we moved there, friends of ours from Singapore, we were just staying with them until we sorted out where we were going to live, brought us to a place, and then the stallholder was a Malaysian guy, and he said, "Oh, new people in Australia, this is where you should live." And then he named 3 places. This is where all the Singaporeans and all the Malaysians live. So immediately we decided, great, we're off to Fremantle. So we didn't want to be anywhere near that sort of environment where you get sucked in. Why move from Singapore to a place and then be with the Singaporeans? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the assimilation that takes place, John, I'm sure you've assimilated quite well. Do you think that as a younger person, it's easier for you to assimilate versus, Hamish, for you as a retiree? Is it? I mean, as a retiree mindset, sometimes it's okay, I don't need to do things, I don't need to meet people, so I can just do what I want to do. So the assimilation aspect, is that something that you faced or you enjoy?
I traveled a lot when I was living here last time, and I've traveled to like many different parts of Southeast Asia, East Asia, and yeah, I do enjoy engaging with the local culture. It feels like I haven't really been on holiday if I just go abroad with friends and we just talk to each other to some extent. Yeah, it's kind of harks back to what we were talking about earlier about the rules and stuff. Like, the transition coming from England to Singapore is mostly like engaging with the inflexibility of the bureaucracy, but like it's highly efficient and it really works. Like, I really respect that aspect of Singapore, but it was really difficult to get used to, doing things so methodically all the time. I would just say my advice to anyone moving here is you should try and make some local friends if you can, because the rules dissolve somewhat when you know people, to a large extent in many cases. That would be my advice.
From a retiree point of view, for me, the connections we made in Samui, the first couple that welcomed us there, they were an Australian couple, George and Louisa, and they had neighbors who, one was a Scottish man married to a Filipino, and then there was another American guy married to a Mongolian lady, and finally it was a Welshman who had a Thai wife and another Australian married to a Thai wife. So that was the retirement community there, which we didn't realize until, very quickly, about 2 weeks after we first went to Samui. but that was a close-knit community then. It's here as well in Penang. It's the same thing too. So like I say, the assimilation is faster than you expect, but you just have to be open to it. And yeah, we look forward to it.
I have the opposite of what all of you are saying. And I don't know because, maybe for me, I always feel like it's easier to make genuine connections when you're obviously very much younger, right? But maybe also because I'm a woman and it's different. So for guys, right, you're like, hey, want to go for a drink? Want to watch a game? It's just very easy. And then you just slowly build up from there. But women like, oh, do you want to go for coffee? And you have to talk. And if you're not in sync, it just doesn't, you just don't want to go any longer or meet up again. So I feel like for me, it's been a lot more challenging to find that genuine connection or that girlfriend support that you need in a very different environment. Yeah.
Are you a more picky sort of person, Nicole?
I don't know, but I feel like that was a bit of a no.
Now lower the standards just a tad.
I think it's not. It's not that I'm picky. It's just I work 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days, depending on the schedule. And I feel like I just don't have the luxury of time to be with people that I just don't feel like I have to force myself into having that connection. And I think for me, on top of that, is like, I guess safety is also an issue for me. Sometimes people come up to you and they're like, oh, you're at a restaurant or you're at a bar, and they come and chit chat. And I always have to kind of ask myself, is this really a genuine approach, or is there another reason to why that person? So in a way, I think it plays both ends. One, I am maybe a little bit picky, but at the same time, it just also have to question, is this really a genuine connection or purpose, or does it have a second reason for why he or she is approaching?
I can identify, like with Nicole, for example, is maybe it's like, yeah, I'll go for a glass of wine, not a cup of coffee, different situation. But like with Harish as well, I could identify with Singapore's coming here as well, is it's very much a culture of where people tend to mind their own business. They're within their own lanes. They don't really push the boundaries too much. I've obviously had the exception to the norms on that. And the common thing for me that I've always found quite amusing and funny is when say, have you taken your lunch?
It's the greeting. It's a Singapore greeting.
So I was always, okay, or what have you eaten for lunch? And you start going through a list and you can see the person sort of glaze over like, that's just a common question, sort of, how are you? How are you? Yeah. It's just, have you taken your lunch? I love that. So what we did here is obviously the area that we lived in is, we had also some expats, some people from India, some people from Holland, Singaporeans, Malaysians. So what I did is I approached the people, because that's what I would do in Africa. We gregarious people, we barbecue and we drink beer. So that's the case. And we started a street party. Right. So we basically brought dishes from all of our own countries, and in Singapore, you've got all the helpers and things. So it was lovely. And we did it every September, have the whole street party with food from everywhere from the different countries. And the funny thing about the street party was I took a cone, and it's in a cul-de-sac, and I put a cone in the middle of the street, and they were like, you don't have a permit, you don't have a letter, cars coming in. I was like, the only people that would be coming into this road are the people living in the street. Let the kids run amok on their skateboards and things. But everybody was so worried that I did not have a permit for my cone I put in the road. Yeah. Never been a problem in all the years. So yeah. So from an assimilation point of view, I agree with everybody. It's what you make of it at the end of the day. Go out and make friends, learn about the culture. It's not necessarily that people are standoffish. Some of the cultures are more respectful and won't want to intrude in things. That's just the way it is. Just go out and make friends. And as John was saying, go out and make local friends, find local places. Otherwise, if you are living in a new country, you're just going to act like a tourist anyway. You're going to Google which are the top 10 rooftop bars, which you're never going to experience the underlying culture and the essence of the country and the people.